Hello, everybody, and welcome to Anime Sickos. It's the podcast for geniuses, and the only podcast, where we look at the four pillars of modern misery: anime, gaming, posting, and jobs. I am Tom, an anime sicko.
I am Joe, an anime sicko. And my understanding is we're going to lean on the gaming pillar little bit.
Yeah. So here's something that happens when we're trying to think up great ideas for our hilarious classic episodes. Every once in a while, one of us will have something we want to talk about. We got a bee in our bonnet, yeah? And we'll be like, how can we make this an episode? Well, the process that occurs after that is, different for every topic, but I think sort of a baseline for, is this going to be an episode is both of us need to, know about it and, experience whatever it is.
And have to interface with it in some capacity.
Yeah. Like if Joe were to say, Tom, the devil is real, and I'm like, I don't feel that's true at all, then we don't do an episode. If Joe goes, the devil is real, and I'm like, I know, he's here now. Then...
If you said the devil isn't real, I don't think that's a good point. I'd be like, well, clearly the devil is disguised as Tom to throw me off his trail.
Exactly. So what's happened to me is that there have been a few video games that I'm like, this is prime sicko stuff. Joe, let's both play this game and then talk about it. And Joe refuses to do it as a big prank on me.
Yes. Do we want to start with the game everyone won't shut up about, and for good reason?
Yeah, it's Elden Ring. We're going to talk about Elden Ring. I love Elden Ring, folks. I've been playing Dark Souls since Dark Souls 1. I complained about him for sure. You remember I complained a lot about Bloodborne. I said the game is very frustrating, doesn't teach you how to fight right, you just die a lot and it's mean to you. Well, that's true, but it's also one of the best games of all time, and my esteem for it has only grown. Elden Ring also fucking just kicks ass. Joe, it's like if you took Breath of the Wild, the sense that it is an open world video game in which the open world is like a very clearly authored space where every single nook and cranny of it has something interesting and unique, and right. You are given an inherent desire to explore it because you know that if you do, you will be shown something cool that you like seeing.
Contrasted with open world as a genre, which often feels like a big map with assets developed in isolation stamped all over. There's not like a feeling that it all hangs together, generally. Breath of the Wild felt like that. Like everything was sort of like lovingly designed. Although it's a big world, it didn't feel lifeless. Yeah. And my understanding is Elden Ring is very similar. It's like, it's a Dark Souls game, and it just happens to be massive.
Yeah. Like the thing everyone loves about Dark Souls 1, or at least the first half of it, is that the map design of the first fucking half of Dark Souls 1 is legit some of the best video game map design ever. And everyone talks about, you see so many fucking video essays about this, about how all the fucking worlds, you're going into these levels, and they feel like discrete levels, Like you go completely different directions from each other, and there's a name of the level, and it has its own theme, and it's sort of self-contained. But then, through your exploration, you find a door or a ladder, and you go through it, and then you're back somewhere else, and you're it starts to click that these levels aren't apart from each other. They're all sort of intertwined in this little knot, and you are able to know where you are in relation to every other level by the end of the first part. The second part's not so good, but
which to me you're describing sort of the fun of getting through a Metroidvania, but obviously this is much more in depth because we're talking about a 3D thing. The way things are winding together are a little more complex.
It's like the Dark Souls 1 map is truly incredible. Really one of the best achievements ever. I can't imagine how they did it. Anyway, Elden Ring map is not quite so intricately knotted, but it feels the same in the sense that Dark Souls 1 had that, especially when you're playing it for the first time, had that feeling of no matter where I go, I'm going to find something really fucking weird and cool. It's definitely going to be from Berserk. There's going to be crazy guys there. There's going to be a monster that looks so fucked up, and I'm going to love it. Elden Ring has that so much, except that it's just been turned up to 11. The scale is so big. I've been playing for 60 hours. I haven't seen probably half of it. I've beaten 2 of the 5 main story bosses. Well, that I know of. There's probably more. And it's like it really does feel exactly like playing Breath of the Wild, where like every time I log on to play, I'm just like giddy, not because like I'm gonna check off, my quest log or I'm gonna get crafting materials. I'm giddy because I know that like no matter what I do, I'm gonna see some shit that's gonna make me hoot. And unlike Zelda, unlike Breath of the Wild,
there's more freaks, right? Way more freaks.
Oh my god, there's so many fucking freaks, dude.
Breath of the Wild's pretty good, but there's not a lot of freaks.
In Breath of the Wild, the enemies you encounter, you get your Bokoblins, you got your Moblins, you got your Lizalfos, and you got your Lynels. That's it, pretty much. I think Octoroks also, but they don't count.
I think the closest thing to the freak is like the fish guy everyone wants to fuck.
Yeah, but that's not that much. He's like pretty normal, other than that he wants you to fuck him.
I will say to me, Breath of the Wild's like little beautiful aspects is Link just walks around oblivious that everyone wants to bang him the whole time.
Yeah. That is pretty good. I don't think that happens in Elden Ring. But like the point being that like in Elden Ring, there are so many fucking enemies. Not just like normal enemies, but mini bosses, actual bosses. Like there's the variety of freaks that you have to kill, and the variety of movesets that you have to sort of learn and deal with, and the variety of ways that you have to fight back is incredible. Like I love Souls combat, and there is no game that conveyor belts more little Souls combat encounters with as much variation into your fucking open mouth as Elden Ring. I love it.
Yeah, I don't really care. I don't play nerd shit. I don't. I only play Gyru Manager 2002 on my Game Boy Advance, a jock game.
Yeah, so you... Okay. I truly don't... And we've talked about it, so I know it a little bit more, but I'm going to pretend like we're just starting. I don't understand what about the Souls games makes you bounce off of them so much, because they do not seem to be far outside your comfort zone. It is not as though like a very hard game that you have to replay and that you have to try over and over at to sort of grasp the concepts and gain mastery is something that you hate. I mean, you play roguelikes.
Yes. The argument that like you bounce off these games or they're hard doesn't apply to me, because I play games that spit in my eye all the time, and I love it. Like
he's a master gamer.
What is gaming but self-abuse? And like, I'm definitely open to that difficulty and obtuseness, even specifically within like Japanese game development. A lot of the discourse happening now is like, Japanese game development does it this way, and I'm like, I know, I like that it hates me a little. Like I deserve it. Of the Souls canon, I have played, I think, one. I mean, I've given up. I just lost interest. Yeah. So I played one. I don't think I played two. I really, of them, I liked Bloodborne the best. And the reason I liked Bloodborne the best, I think, is because the aesthetic is creepy and wet. It felt unique. And the Elden Ring, I guess you want to call it aesthetic, maybe the Demon Souls aesthetic.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't like it. It's like, it's neutral to me. I don't care one way or the other. Like, it's kind of how I felt about how Skyrim and the Morrowind games look and feel, which is like, they don't look bad. I mean, Morrowind looks like shit now in a very fun way.
Yeah,
but like the visual design style, I would say, is like fantasy. Like, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't like do anything for me. Like, I don't think it's bad, but it's just not putting any like gas in my tank.
I kind of see where you're coming from, but I also am thinking about the flame chariots. That's just a big sort of green copper head that's like 20 feet tall with a jillion like curling tubes coming out of its mouth that shoot fire as it fucking wheels around at incredible speeds. And the way you do damage to it is you have to get behind it, and there's a little goblin sticking out the back of like the cockpit, and you have to poke him in the butt. Like
that sounds
I will
cool.
agree.
But that's not even the coolest chariot enemy I know of, because the best one is the one in Shin Megami, which is a huge dick that's on a chariot.
That's true. Yeah. I don't. It's Dark Souls and Elden Ring is Dark Souls 4. Like they tried to play like it's like this isn't just another Souls game. It's Dark Souls 4. The Dark Souls look, I will agree that like your guy when you're not wearing like boss armor, like a matched set, when you're just like wearing normal sort of like mid game or like I'm trying my best armor, you just sort of look like a random fucking knight or robe man.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree that sort of looks generic, but I don't know, dude. There's so many freaks. The boss design, like part of why encountering a Dark Souls boss is so fun, is just be like, what kind of fucking guy am I gonna see? It feels like JoJo and just like, you know what, Rocky, fuck me up. Show me the fuckedest guy you got. And like they got some fucked up guys. Like one of the bosses, Renala, the witch queen who is in charge of the Rhea Lucaria Magic Academy. She's just got her proportions are so fucked up in the coolest way. And I'm saying proportions fucked up on a woman in a Japanese thing. You're probably thinking titties. No, just like the length of her limbs and the size of her head in relation to like the rest of her is very upsetting in a way that looks so cool. Also, her hat owns. I bought her hat from the vendor, and my guy's wearing her hat now.
Can I ask a freak question about in
Sure
general?
can.
Obviously, this is heavily inspired by Berserk. This is Berserk, but not. Is there any analog to the final four of freaks, the God Hand? Like, is there a brain guy?
There's not a brain guy, I don't think, unfortunately. That would be a little too on the nose as a Berserk reference.
Okay,
Also,
well, I had to look up God Hand because I couldn't remember the name of their like group, and brain guy in the wiki under the traits section for brain guy, it's that he's 216 plus years old. That's the main thing. He's
that's
an old
pretty
guy.
young for a brain guy. I think he would be older than that. Anyway,
Yeah, it should be older than time or something.
fucking Elden Ring's so good. And okay. I'm not going to get too much into it because it's just like there's nothing really to say other than like this is the fucking great Dark Souls game. It's one of the best ones. It's fun. I love it. Here's the thing though that I want to talk about is that it's people posting about it now, and that's really the problem. Because everyone's fucking freaking out about Elden Ring on the timeline, and nobody's talking about it right. Like, everyone's dumb. Like, on one hand, you have the people who have never played a Souls game before and who have played it because they feel they are required to play the most popular new game. They do not like the most popular new game, and then they get angry that they were assigned this awful thing to waste their time with. And it's like, one, you didn't have to play it, and two, it's like the things they all say are like, this game is impossible. It's so obtuse, and the UI is so bad. The design is just unacceptably poor because it's impossible to know what's what. There's no way for a person to understand going in blind what to do or what all these stats mean. It is a game that requires you to use guides, which I believe is a failure in the conveyance of information. Now, these people are wrong. However, the people who are responding to them are also wrong. The people being like, you fool. The game provides you all the information you need if you simply look. Anyone can get into these games and figure them out on their own. Why, I did. So it is foolish for you to make these accusations. Now, Joe, these people are also wrong because the UI of Dark Souls is fucking terrible. Like, it sucks such shit.
You don't have to pretend it's like actually really great. The way I think about this, and I haven't played Elden Ring and I don't really have interest in it at the moment, but I know for people who want to play a Dark Souls game like you, who like tongue starts wagging when From Software teases like an image,
Yeah.
a clunky UI will not cause you to not play the game. In that case, the clunky UI is no different than those dog bowls that make the dog eat slower.
With a bunch of little spikes that shoot up, so they have to like stick their tongue out and only get a few kibbles per lick.
Right. And you will do it because the kibble is so appealing to you. You will play the little game and you'll deal with the obstruction. Yeah. And also it stimulates your mind and appetite, like the packaging says. And the reason I've been thinking about this is we just had to buy one of those for one of our cats who pukes, and the reason Roman pukes, we're like 99% sure, is he just gorges himself on dry food. And when we gave him the bowl today with the slow eater bowl, he was so pissed. He like yelled at it, and he like looked at me like it was a betrayal, and he was very upset. And the thing is, that's a lot of people who play Elden Ring, because
Roman is the guy who goes on Twitter and says, "Oh, I guess the design lesson we're supposed to take from this stupid game is that UI should be bad." And it's like, well, no, I think the UI sucks, and like, it's really shitty. Like, swapping weapons is so confusing. Everyone, even the most hardened Souls veterans, are gonna die at least once because they got fucked up trying to switch their weapons.
I will say, you said that it is like a culmination of all the Souls games. The only thing that it doesn't have, which I was bummed to find out about, is I love the Bloodborne transforming weapons, and there was no equivalent, right?
Not a one-to-one equivalent where it's like where the weapons visually like click into a different form when you hit the change function button. They do have all the weapons have special like secondary moves, and then you can use Ashes of War, which are like these buffs that you can apply a different secondary attack to the weapons. And some of the secondary moves do get kind of nutty, and they sort of hit that same feel that you get with the trick weapons in Bloodborne, where like you can use them in the normal way, but then you can go big mode and like really do something nutty that looks badass and is very strong with the secondary one. But you don't get the feeling of when you're using the fucking cleaver and it goes chunk and suddenly it's really long. That kicks ass, and I think they should have put it in.
For me, the coolest is the cane that's a sword whip, and it's just like, you're fighting someone and then you need a little more distance and you switch to whip cane, and it's just so cool.
Yeah. I do have a sword whip that's pretty cool, where if you use this charged heavy attack, you do a big whip sweep and then a fucking spear stab where it like whips into a straight point and you just sort of stab with it.
Like a Soul Calibur Ivy move?
Exactly. It kicks ass. I put a Ash of War on it that enchants it with holy magic if I do the special secondary, which is to say, anytime skeletons show up, I do that and they fucking melt. Anyway, these people defending the UI are like, actually, you've seen that this is the same UI that From Software uses in all of their games. They've not changed it. This is because they have specifically designed it with intention. This is the way they want it to be played. And it's like, no. They're just bad at it. Like, it's fine. Like, it can be bad. Like, it can be bad. It can be, like, I want the kibble. I'm gonna eat the kibble.
You don't have to say the bowl is fun.
Yeah. Would I like it if the UI was better? Yeah, like, I would. The fact that you can like press a button in the pause menu and then select another button, and then it offers a view where you can highlight the keywords in your stat column and it tells you what the fuck they do. Like, the fact that that's in the game, that doesn't change the fact that no one's gonna like, it's so hard to get to that. No one's gonna do it.
I have found out great. Just by Twitter that you can press like one of the thumbsticks and you can sort your inventory by like order of item acquired, and someone was like, I found this out 110 hours in.
I found that out right now. Like, I didn't know that you could do that.
Yeah.
Part of what's so tough about the game is when you get a key item that is important, you're like, I gotta read the item description because it's gonna tell me what I'm supposed to do with this thing. Fucking finding the item in your inventory is so hard. Jesus Christ. The game rules. It is the fucking dog food bowl, dude. The slow eater bowl is such a great image, because my brother was asking me about Elden Ring. He was like, I've heard about this Elden game. Should I play it? And my pitch was like, it is a game that asks a lot of you as a player. A lot of games don't really ask much of you at all and are just conveyor belts giving you treats. This game is constantly asking a lot of you, and if you do not give if you don't give what is being asked of you, the game will like shut the door in your face and be like, come back when you have it, bitch. However, like the thing is, when you do give the game what it's asking for, you are rewarded handsomely with like so much fucking fun. Like that's the thing. When people who clearly just will never enjoy these games play Elden Ring because I have to play the popular game and are like, what am I supposed to find enjoyable? Like, or rather, why am I supposed to be spending my time on this game with bad UI, last gen graphics, and it's just cruel and obtuse just to be mean to the player? Why would I waste my time with this game? And like, well, clearly the reason, and like, you know this. Like, surely you know this in your soul. The reason is because it's fun. Like it is.
Even if it's not fun to you, you have to understand the way it is fun to other people. Like,
yeah.
I am not ready to play this game. I'm not eager to play this game. I might get to it at some point. But I'm also not going to, like, half-ass it for $60 and be like, I don't really know what's going on. It sucks. Like, I need to... Yeah. You have to have the Souls mindset, which, like, you know what the game is by now. Like, they From Software has put out their special formula again and again. You know, like, they have built up a demand for their unique formula. There's no surprises... Yeah. Relative to kind of like the scope of what you're getting. Like, you get surprised by the individual freaks, the spooky words on a sword, fine.
Yeah, but like, you know what the combat's going to be like generally. Obviously there's going to be specifics that are different, but like the combat and also sort of the loop of the gameplay. What it's like to enter an area, get fucked up, die immediately, get a little farther, be like, I'm making good progress. Turn a corner, there's an ambush, die immediately. Get back to there. Turn a corner, I know the guy's there, I kill him easily. Haha, I've done it. Walk a few more steps, something falls from the ceiling and kills you. Like you I don't know. Like, at this point, like, it feels so odd that, like, this is the 4th Dark Souls game. And also, Demon's Souls was like Dark Souls 0. So this is the 5th Dark Souls game. And all of them have been hits. Like, they've been sort of like niche, but like, they're still mainstream hits. And people are still coming out, showing their whole ass, being like, you know what? I've discovered that this game is irredeemably terrible. And it's like, well, surely it's not. Like, you have to see that it's not. I don't know. And it's just so,
I think there's a lot more of wanting to try the game, even though you're going to bounce off of it, because it's like the only game anyone's talking about. It is, in terms of game releases, a huge title. The war started as it was released, and everyone was like, I guess I pick the game.
Yeah. Like, people talk about the dreaded easy mode discourse. I'm going to solve it now. Again, both sides are wrong. I am the only genius. People being like, it is unacceptable that this game does not have an easy mode in 2022. It is simply unacceptable and a failure design. I do think that it is okay for a game to just have the difficulty that it's supposed to be, and this is it. However, when it comes to accessibility options, I'm not including difficulty in that, and I know the difficulty is an accessibility option, but there are other accessibility options that do not include difficulty. That it is an unacceptable failure that they're not in the game.
They got a colorblind mode?
I don't think there's a colorblind mode. No, and like just also, like, and the UI being clunky is one of them. Like, it is extremely difficult to access the information, all of which is there. And the fact that all the info is there is what is the defenders love to point to that, being like, actually, there's no problems because all the info is there if you look. It's insane how much you have to look. And I know I said the game asks a lot of you, and it's fun that it does, but some of the things it asks you to do are just because it's fucking dumb. Like, you shouldn't have to do that. It should be more accessible than that. So, like, the fact that it's very hard and, like, that is the game is, like, I respect that. And I respect them just sticking by their guns, being like, we will never offer difficulty modes. This is the game. This is what it is. If you don't like that, you don't have to fucking play it. This is what it is. I understand that. I respect that. But, like, they're still kind of fucking up when it comes to these options. I don't know. Good game, though.
I don't know why it doesn't grab me on paper. It's a can of dog food with my face on it. Like, it should be for me.
I thought, and is this true? Would you say this is accurate? That it might be because it requires a sort of sustained, long-term focus. That even though you might say, well, Joe plays this roguelike over and over until he gets good over lots of hours. But a roguelike is, as you said in the past, a permanent present where nothing you've done before really matters other than very abstractly, like, knowing the mechanics. Like, you know, what you did yesterday doesn't affect your build today.
That is true. The other thing that a roguelike has that I think Elden Ring doesn't is that the structure of the roguelike itself, like, where you are used to a beginning, middle, and end, like, even though anything could happen within the parameters of the run, there is sort of a structure that is built into there so you can kind of know what's happening. You can anticipate some things. That internal structure lightens the cognitive load for me.
Yeah.
And there are some times when I'm playing a game, usually when I start a game and I have the highest available cognitive load, like I'm like, my brain is just a void and it's sucking in all the information. The thing is with a roguelike, regardless of how I feel, like if I don't have a lot in the tank that day and I don't have maybe the mental capacity to fuck around in a new Elden Ring zone and get killed a bunch of times, the structure of the roguelike will sort of make up for that.
Yeah.
That existing structure that sort of eases that cognitive burden is never going to be there. And that's on me. That's not like a complaint. It's just I don't have as much interest in a game where I have to bring my whole self to work every time, which is also which is also my issue with every Monster Hunter game, which I play the shit out of, which is once you get further up in the game, we're talking about the stuff after G rank, like the later stuff, you have to play at a very almost flow state because everything kills you in like 2 hits and you are having to rely on visual cues from these monsters with like not a lot of error and wiggle room. And God forbid if you have a fucking slow weapon, you need to do that all the more.
Yeah.
And that's why I always peter out on the end game of Monster Hunter, because each sort of little rung of progress requires more and more time where you are absolutely like not making mistakes and you are just crushing it.
You do have to bring your whole self to work for Elden Ring. It's not, people say this and people say that it's not as hard or as unforgiving as demanding as the other Souls games, which is true. But then you also have people being like, people say this game is the easiest one. It's so hard. And like, well, okay, well, there are areas that are fucking hard as shit that are gonna whip your ass harder than a equivalent level in another Dark Souls game. But like, part of what's so good about the open world formula plus the Souls, which it really works together very well, is you can have a session where you sit down and you're just like, this time, me playing Elden Ring today, I'm not going to go to any of the big fucking, important areas. I'm just going to fuck around and go to the little areas and find little stuff. And you can just do that and it's fine. And you'll have fun. You'll have your little bite-sized Souls combat encounters. You'll probably find like a catacombs and like, a catacombs. They generally take about 10 minutes to get through. They're, pretty pretty much all look the same with a little bit of variation. Is there going to be gargoyles or skeletons in there this time? And they all have a boss, and like they reuse the bosses from time to time. But like you might get a special one, and you get a little reward at the end. Oh boy, a reward! Like you can have these sort of like bite-sized, what you're gonna get type gameplay scenarios in Elden Ring, in addition to I'm gonna fucking dive headfirst into the big new area, the big new fucking plot relevant area, and run the gauntlet of all its fucking challengers, and then go to the special dungeon. And when you're in the dungeon, it like becomes like a level, and it's like a big ass Dark Souls level, and it's fun as hell, and it makes you bring your whole self to work. You have to be constantly vigilant, looking everywhere, making sure you're doing all your stuff right. It's got both of those flavors, and I think that really helps it out. It's so good, dude. I love it. I love Elden Ring. I want to play it now.
And also these games rely on experimentation a lot, right? Like they are welcomed experimentation, which actually I like. The reason I think it's different than the experimentation I like thrive on in roguelikes is when you experiment in a roguelike, you are experimenting within the context of a single run. So you go into it like, I'm going to work on my opening. I'm going to do something different on this opening. So the experimentation is part of an existing process, whereas in Elden Ring, the whole appeal is that you don't know the whole process because there's a big open world, there's a bunch of crazy shit. You're going to fall in a hole where there's a guy called like the Gobbler or whatever.
Yeah. Actually, there's kind of a connection to what you were talking about there, and in the sense that, and then this is one of the big sort of like Souls mindset things, that, like, if you're bouncing off the Souls games, you need to understand this, is that like dying in a Dark Souls game has like zero downside. People think it has downsides because it's like, but you drop your souls, and if you die again, you lose them forever. Who cares? Like, souls are infinite. Like there are an infinite amount of souls in the game because the enemies respawn and the enemies give you the souls. So there will always be more. Don't worry. So like one thing that I like to do is I like will go into an area basically knowing that I'm gonna die, and I'm like, this is a recon run. Like, I don't like, if I should not die, incredible, all the better. But I'm going in here just looking around. What's around here? What's over here? Oh, a dragon's there. I better run away very fast and hope it doesn't catch up to me. Ooh, there's something interesting. Oh, the dragon caught me and I'm dead now. Okay, well now I'll do it for real.
We sent Zombie Man to do recon. It's just like, fine.
Yeah.
He's gonna eat shit.
That's true. You're Zombie Man in Dark Souls. This game's so good. But enough of that. I think we've reached the end of what I have to say about Elden Ring. The other game that I really wanted to talk about,
and this is where I really get to eat my hat, because I just said a bunch of roguelike shit, which we're going to find out and explain why doesn't apply.
Yeah. This is a game that not only I wanted to talk about, but every fucking one of you people out there listening sent me a link to this Steam page being like, I think this would be great for the show. It's Inscryption. Joe never fucking played it.
No, I did. See, I did play it. I played, so... Do you want to say spoilers at the top? It's not super new anymore, but in order to talk about this, we're going to have to address... So I will just start at the jump. The thing that makes Inscryption very cool is you start out playing what looks to be like a card game Slay the Spire deal, but what it is actually 4 games in one, set up to be like a very sort of revealed, oh my god, this is so cool narrative, and this is all taking place on a computer. So like these different games you're playing are actually distinct games.
Yes. Well, the main story, again, full spoilers, as far as I understand it, and as succinct as I can make it, is long ago there was an evil card game-based piece of cursed data that Hitler had once. It was recovered by some guys who hid it on a floppy disk. Yeah, it was recovered by Hobby Lobby. It was put on a floppy disk, and it was sent to this game company so that they could make a video game to sort of be the cover for what was actually on this floppy disk. The video game was a fucking like Game Boy Color style adaptation of Inscryption, a collectible card game. You know how there was that Game Boy Color adaptation of the Pokemon trading card game? It's like that, but for Inscryption.
Very similar aesthetic.
However, what happened is the beings within, the four scribes, these like godlike beings that create the cards, became sentient, and they wanted to make the game their own. So they invented other versions of the game, and then a YouTuber named the Lucky Carter finds fucking coordinates to the floppy disk, and he starts playing it. And
there's a little Blair Witch video you get to watch.
Yeah, so you playing the game is actually Luke Carter, the YouTuber, playing the game, and eventually some shit happens, and one of the entities on the game wants to get off this fucking floppy disk and upload his version of the game to Steam so that everyone can download it, but by doing so, it would mean that this evil card game-based data that is the work of Satan would be
the girl from The
distributed.
Ring got to the cloud, and now we're fucked.
Exactly. And then at the end, someone from Hobby Lobby shoots him in the head for knowing too much. That's the game.
Yes. And all of these games are card-based. So,
Yes.
on paper, perfect, flawless.
This game is a victim of its own quality, because what I just told you, the plot, sort of, this guy Daniel Mullins, as far as I understand, his sort of work prior to this is he makes spooky, creepy story games that have all these layers. They also have ARGs that we can unlock hidden lore by searching for fucking geocaches or some shit. And the gameplay in them is just like the thing you do to get to the next bit of story. It's like the filler that makes it, a game rather than just a movie. But it's not what's important. What's important is the story and the tone. And the story and tone in this game are very strong. The tone in the first part, especially when you're in the spooky cabin with this fucking forest man who you can only see his glowing eyes, and he's forcing you to play a card game to your death. It's really cool and badass.
You have to play a card game, but you can also get up from the table at any point and play Myst.
Yeah. And like it's a cool story. The story is about card games. Like all the main characters, the scribes, are people who love cards and think about card games in different ways. And you get to see like their take on how card games should be played. So you get a lot of different variety in the card play. The problem is, I said how, with other games, the gameplay was just sort of filler to get to the next plot thing. He made the gameplay too good.
He fucked up.
The first part of the game, the part that is the only part that was advertised so as to, protect the reveal, where you're playing cards with the fucking forest man in a cabin. It's so goddamned fun.
It's really fun. It's so cool. And when you accomplish what the first game has you set out to do, which is like you are trapped in a dark cabin with this creepy guy, and he's making you play this game. And when you beat the game, story stuff happens, and the floppy disk reboots, and you get to play the Game Boy Color game, the original game that Tom had mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
It is absolutely, when it happened to me, it was like a jaw dropper. I was like, shit, this is really cool mechanically. Like from a game design perspective, in terms of just showmanship, like sometimes I just like to think in terms of pure like the reveal. It is astounding. But I will tell you exactly what happened, which is a case of a victim of its own success. When I was given the second game, and I'm like intellectually blown away by what's in front of me and how it changed, the issue was my heart was still in the last game, thinking about card combinations and like thinking about like how do I build the most broken deck, because there's a one of the reasons the first game is so fucking cool is that you're sitting at a table and there's all this shit in the room, and all of it's not just decor. Like it gets used, and at one point towards the end of the run, you have to fight the moon, which is behind the guy the whole time.
And the guy uses a camera to make his cards. He like he's obsessed with animals. All the cards are animals, so he just takes pictures of animals, and a card comes out of the fucking camera.
Correct. And he does that to the moon, and the moon card is like the size of the table. It's so fucking funny. So The first time I beat the moon was also the time I, got the game ready to take me to the next Game Boy version. Mm-hmm. The problem was all I wanted to do was think about how I could break that stupid moon as fast as possible. Like, I was obsessed with this encounter, which was so cool, and I was just like, oh, if that's what we're doing, and because the moon is so large, it can't really block that well, like, how fast can I fucking break this thing? Like, you can just probably just burn it down if you know it's coming, right?
Yeah.
Which is objectively true.
Yeah. And you will know it's coming because it's the final boss every time. No, Joe... You mentioned that the game fucking is fun as hell, and you mentioned the look of it, how you're in this sort of 3D room. I gotta talk about. We gotta mention the UI of this game. We talked about how the UI in fucking Elden Ring was clunky and bad. This is the best card game UI ever. I'm so pissed that I can't play Slay the Spire in this UI because it is a first-person, fully 3D world where, like, when you hold your hand of cards, like, you are seeing 4 cards in the air. When you look at your deck, you're looking at a deck of cards on the table. When you draw one of them gets picked up and put in your hand, and, like, you get tokens later that you can, like, use, as currency, little bone tokens. We want to know how you know how many you have? It's not because of an icon with a number next to it. You have to look at the table and fucking count them because they're all there.
Also, you can get a pair of pliers, which you can use to rip out your teeth to affect a scale in the game.
Oh yeah. The way that the object of the game is there's like a damage scale, like Libra, like scales of justice, and every time you do damage to the other guy, you put a fucking pip in their little bowl on the scales, and you can just pull one of your teeth out and have a free pip and put it on the bowl.
Yeah, you can also you pop your own fucking eye out.
Yeah.
Like you get, what is it, a knife? You find like a knife. No.
Yeah. You find a knife. You find a knife because, like, throughout the you can get up from the table at any time. The guy is like, you can get up whenever you want. You're not a captive. You are a captive. And there's little puzzles that you can do. And eventually one of the things that you can unlock is a knife. And it gets put, on the same place at the table where all of your power-ups go. And you aren't told what the knife does. But it's a power-up, clearly. And eventually you use it, being like, I wonder what this does. And you pop your eye out and you put it on the scale. It's like 4 teeth's worth of pips.
Yeah, half of your screen goes black because you just popped out your fucking eye.
Yeah, so like all the shit on the right side of the table, you're really having to struggle to figure out what's going on. It's so cool. I was like, oh my god, this is badass. And then the other badass thing is that at the end of the round, the guy, the forest man, your captor, is like, it's not fair for you to have only one eye. Take one of my replacement eyes. And he opens up a box of eyes. And one of them is clearly the one to take because it's magic.
It's got runes, dude. It's got runes.
And you're like, I'm going to put it in my eye. And you put it in your eye, and you immediately see that the entire fucking cabin is covered in, like, magical paint. And on the box, it's like, turn around, look at the clock. And you turn around and look at the clock, and there's shit written on the clock. And you're like, oh my god, who did this? And it's... So, okay, here's the thing, Joe. Another reason, in addition to the UI just being badass, you're like playing physically cards in 3D against a monster.
Mm-hmm.
Another reason that the game is so fucking good is because it's broken as shit. You mentioned, like, how can I break the card? Easily. You can break the game so easily on purpose. And this is, I think, a genius move from Daniel Mullins, is when you were designing a card-based roguelike, the first thing that you're going to have to deal with is the fact that Slay the Spire is already the best one that ever will be designed, and you're not going to get better than it. You simply won't. So you need to find a solution for why don't I just play Slay the Spire. His solution was, I will make a broken game that is bonkers easy and makes up for its shallowness by just letting you get nutty. Now, the problem that opens up is, well, there's really not a lot to this then. I mean, if someone learns how to get nutty, they will simply get nutty a few times and realize that, well, this is going to be every run, isn't it? Then the solution then becomes, fucking change it into a Game Boy game, and you don't get to play that anymore. So the reason the game gets so fucking nutty is that cards sometimes have little glyphs on them, little icons that, like, designate, some special ability that card has. Some of them are, whatever. Some of them are insanely powerful and are balanced by being on a weak monster. Now, what you can do, every single run guaranteed, is transfer a glyph from one card to another. So if you get a very weak card, but it has a really strong glyph. See, it's balanced. No, what you do is immediately pick the option to transfer a glyph and put it on your strongest monster, and now you've won the game.
Yeah. A very basic example is there's a stink bug card, which is a card that has 1 health, and when it dies, it goes back in your hand, it just regenerates. You just put that regeneration mechanic on anything else that's good, and it can carry you most of an encounter.
Yeah. There is a card called Mantis God that attacks not only the card in front of it, but the card to both sides, so it attacks 3 cards.
Yeah,
that's
one thing we
pretty
didn't
good.
mention is that like this is a positional game, so kind of like how Hearthstone has like blockers and stuff. It's similar to that.
Yeah. So Mantis God attacks 3 guys, but it only does 1 damage and only has 1 life. Very weak. What you do is you put that attacks 3 guys icon on someone who does 6 damage. That guy is now doing 18 damage every single turn. Remember those fucking scales that I talked about? You win when you do 5 damage to the other guy, and you're doing 18 damage with 1 card every turn. Also, you can put a glyph that does instant death. So anytime the card touches anything, it dies immediately, no matter how much damage it does. And if you're wondering, does that instant death glyph work on the moon? Yes, the moon has a lot of HP, but you can have your first guy have instant death glyph, and moon dies instantly. Like, the game's easy as fuck. People have done it, like, you can get an infinite loop so easily. You'll see infinite loops, GIFs of them on fucking Twitter, and they are so much fun. It's nutty to do.
Yeah. One of the reasons the moon fight is so fun is because it is so large. It takes up every spot. So if you have a Mantis God card and it hits 3 different enemies, it's actually hitting the moon 3 times, which is fucking dope.
Yeah. There's actually, this is pretty funny. Every once in a while, there will be like a fucking like VHS filter over the gameplay, and there will be like the YouTube guy who you're supposedly playing as. He will say something.
Like,
and
what
generally,
the fuck? Is this a fucking circle?
Yeah, pretty much. And they're mostly like plot based. Like when something weird happens, he's like, "What the fuck?" Yeah. I did find to my delight that like after the second or third time I picked Mantis God when it was offered to me, it happened, and the guy just said, "Always pick Mantis God."
Yes. Yes.
And I'm
He's
like,
right.
Fuck.
He's right.
So Joe, you mentioned the fucking the UI for Elden Ring and Dark Souls in general was like the thing, the bowl with the spikes that you put the kibble in, so that makes your cat eat slower, or your dog, whatever, your pet eats slower.
Yeah.
The fucking beginning game of Inscryption, where you're playing spooky Halloween cards with a monster man, and all of your cards are animals that are like written on little scraps of fucking like brown paper. That is like the bag of kibble, like the 40-pound bag just got slopped on the floor, and a big fucking box cutter just tore the entire fucking thing open, and your owner just said, "Go nuts, kid," and you're like, "Oh my god," and you just put your face in the kibble. Oh, you can't believe you're eating this much kibble. You never imagined that this much kibble could ever exist in one time, in one place. And you know, well, you don't know, your owner knows, that if you were to stay in this situation indefinitely, you would gorge yourself with kibble and vomit and become extremely sick. The solution, the genius move is...
right before you're about to puke, it changes the game on you. And the issue is, I want to puke so bad, dude. Like, I want to eat until I am dead.
This is listener, you have no idea how many times I had to gently remind Joe, like, you know, I would really like it if you completed Inscryption so that we could do an episode about it. It's only about 10 hours long to beat completely, to get to the credits. It would be such a favor to me if you would do that. No, he's like, no, I must die, I must puke. Well, here's the thing, Joe, they actually did... I imagine to Daniel Mullins' chagrin, although I doubt he would admit it. And also, I don't want to fucking say that I'm reading his mind. I know nothing about this guy other than that his name exists and then he made this game.
He made a good game. Yeah.
He made a version. There's a new mode that they added that is just play the first part forever.
And I said he fixed it. He fixed the game. Like, he figured it out. He was like, oh, all this other shit after the first thing. There's like a story. Whew. People should really be focusing on the cards.
Yeah. God. I mean, like, one thing that people that sort of bugged me, and this bugs me anytime there's like a transformative piece of art that like really is a stunning triumph. When something like that happens, I think it's like, we got to celebrate that. That's incredible. I believe Inscryption is one such. What always bugs me is the people who think they need to like be cool by actually pointing out the things that are wrong about it. And it's not as though I think that there should be no criticism of shit like this, but like, it's especially when people are going out of their way to point out stuff that is so self-evident, like the flaws that are so clear. It's not, you're not making anything more nuanced by pointing this out. You're not being a insightful critic. And what I'm speaking about in particular is people who would be like, Inscryption's pretty good. The first part really overshadowed the second two. And it's like, yeah, idiot, obviously, like, clearly. Like, huh? Well,
Yeah.
like, you think it wasn't gonna? There's three parts that are all completely different, have completely different game mechanics. One of them, just by the fact that, one of them's gonna be the best of the three. That's gonna happen. And why would you not put the best one first?
The first one has to be there because it's the most graphically demanding game, because you can't do system requirements on a game. Can you imagine if there was the Game Boy game as the first game, and they're like, by the way, you do need like these hardware requirements? Everyone would immediately be like, oh, this is a secret Bitcoin trick.
Yeah. Like, there's no, why do I need to be able to render high-res 3D graphics for this pixel art card game?
Yeah, and it's not even the most, like, it's not graphically demanding, but also I don't think we said this yet, the 3D in the first game is like the coolest 3D. It's
so, like, it's gorgeous.
It's 3D but it's like rough around the edges. Like, it's not like, and that's what makes it so fucking cool.
Yes. It's like, if you haven't, if you know, you know. If you haven't seen footage of Inscryption, look for it. It looks like, I said like, oh, the card game is shallow and it's not as good as Slay the Spire. It's too easy to break. Yeah, that's all whatever. It doesn't matter because like just the visceral experience of playing a video game that looks like this is so satisfying.
Right.
Like Slay the Spire, when we said this before, it looks and sounds like absolute shit. Visually and musically, it is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
There is no music. It's wind noise. Okay, there's wind noise. That's all there is. And I do sort of love that, like, when you play Slay the Spire, you can unlock the original version of all the art cards, which the regular art sucks. So when you see like what their original sketch was when they were like just doing like an early rendering, you get to see some awful cards, and I love it.
Nightmare stuff. And also the reason the other parts aren't as good is sort of it's plot related, and it feels stupid to be like, actually the plot says it has to suck, but it does. Like the plot is that like there are the four scribes, each of whom is creating the cards in the card game, and each of whom has a completely different area of interest and reason they like card games. And I really like this concept because it makes the story, which is about a card game, be like a celebration of card games in itself, because you got your main guy, your forest guy, who has all the animal cards, and his sort of like given canon reason for liking card games is like, I just love playing and I love the flavor, and it shows in his fucking segment, the beginning segment, because like the actual depth of the game is not really there. It's mostly about like flavor, and there's a lot of gimmick cards that like behave in a funny way because that's how that animal would behave, and he just loves playing. He wants you to keep playing because he's having a great time. And then there is like the crypt woman, Grimora, who's all about skeleton cards, and she loves sacrificing cards to
one of your
summon
resources is bones. We have not said this yet.
The bones are your money.
Your bones are your fucking money. The resources are blood and bone.
Yeah. And two of the scribes, and this is the reason that the second and third part aren't as good, are assholes who like card games for bad reasons. One of them is a wizard who just loves to have like fucking mana. He's obsessed with lands, basically. They're not like lands specifically, but like they're lands. And he's like cruel in the fiction to all of his like apprentices, his wizard apprentices. And then there's a robot who's just an asshole. He is the host of the third segment of the game. And his deal is that card games aren't about fucking flavor or lore. It's about numbers, dude. It's about I have to make the numbers right and play optimally.
It sucks that he's right.
Yeah. He's like, I don't give a
funny.
shit about flavor. I don't give a shit about whether the game's fun. I simply have an optimal deck. Fuck you. And like the last third of the game, have you ever seen any footage of the last third of the game, that robots part? Oh,
No,
it's
I was kind of hoping you could just explain like the aesthetics and gameplay of the third and fourth games, because I basically beat without actually fighting the last boss, but like I got the gist of the Game Boy one. Okay,
Yeah.
I get it. So what's happening in the third and fourth game?
There's only 3 main ones. The fourth is like the ending is kind of like it's mostly just a cinematic with some gameplay. But the third game with the robot is you go back to full 3D, except instead of being in like this spooky sort of like warm colored Halloween cabin, you're just in like a fucking dank basement with this robot, and he is projecting a sort of blue hologram, and he's like, yeah, it's an adventure, fucking go here. And everyone's like, I didn't like the third part because the robot was such a bad DM when he was like explaining the fiction that was happening in the game.
It's because he doesn't care about it. Like he's focused on the wrong part.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit. Yeah, it's like it wasn't as good and evocative as the masks that the first guy would wear. Like, yeah, because the first guy thinks it's cool. This guy's just like, I don't care. Can we fucking get to the goddamn? Can you get to the game? And your cards, dude, your cards are floppy disks. Like, your deck is a stack of floppy disks. And when you put your card down, like, the floppy disk expands and a little 3D projection comes up out of it. And, oh my God, there's a new mechanic where you can just destroy a card that you've played on the field for free at any time. And the way you do it is there's a hammer on the table. And you pick up the hammer and smash one of your floppy disks. It looks badass.
And you would want to do that on cards that do stuff when they die? Is that the rationale?
Yes, but also sometimes there's just like, because the robot's sort of other gimmick is that he has mana from Hearthstone, in that you start off with 1 energy worth of shit to do.
And your mana curve just goes up?
Yeah, and it goes up and up and up. So at the beginning of the game, you're going to be playing very baby cards because they're the only thing you're capable of playing. And eventually, when you have a lot of energy, a lot of mana, and can play a big dick card, and like say there's no space, you can just crash, break one, and put one down. I think the reason is because you no longer sacrifice other cards to pay for big dick cards. You have to use mana for everything. So if you have a full row and you want to put something else down, you do have to be able to smash one of your cards with a hammer.
I think that's why I like the first game so much, is because you're using the Forest Guy's like a circle of life thing where like predators have to eat smaller animals to be played. Part of the strategy, which is so fun, is that you are always playing with like the intent to nuke your own guys. Like the game is like, how can I maximize every node on the food chain here?
Yeah. It's just another instance of like the fucking first guy loves flavor. He loves lore. The animals do need to eat. Strong animals need to eat the most. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, the robot's just like, yeah, you got to have resources in your card game to keep it balanced. I don't give a fuck. And the fun thing is that like you do encounter very goofy sort of computer-based mini bosses in the robots campaign that have sort of fun little gimmicks. Like one involves midway through, you have to design a card from scratch, where you sort of get a menu and like you can put any numbers on the card, you can put any glyphs, you can put any effects, but each one of those has a point cost, and you only have like X amount of points to work with. And so you design a card and then it gets sent to someone else playing the game online. And previously in the fucking campaign with the robot, you got a card from someone else and you're like, oh, this is fun, how cool. And now you see like, oh, this is where it comes from. And the way you beat the second round of the boss is if the person who has your card wins the round they're using it in.
Aw.
Yeah, it's dope as hell. There's another one where you have to make a card based on the game accesses your hard drive, and it's like, please pick the biggest file you have. and the bigger file it is, the stronger the card pops out. And it's also like, if the card dies, the file will be deleted. What actually happens is it makes a text file at the same location as the original with the same title. And it says, hello, this is Inscryption. Please, honor system, please delete the file. And another one is like, please pick the oldest file on your hard drive. It's dope. It's one of the stupidest fucking computer game sleight of hand things where it's like, oh, the computer game is using my computer, but it works on me every time. And then eventually it's revealed that like all of the gimmicks in the mini bosses were like, I needed to access your hard drive. I needed to access the internet. I needed to access the floppy disk so that now I can upload to Steam. And it's like, it's so fun. And then the final part is like the world starts falling apart, the world of the video game, because some shit happens. And you briefly revisit everyone. Well, revisit two of the people, the Grimora and the Wizard. You never played their versions of the game, but you visit everyone. You revisit your friend, the Forest Man, except now it's not scary. He's like your old friend. And as you're playing the game again, like stuff starts to despawn from the world. Like parts of the UI start vanishing. And eventually, the fucking scales that determine who's winning and losing vanishes. And he's like, I don't mind. Let's just keep playing for fun. And it's like, I love you. I will keep playing with you. And then you go to the fucking the graveyard girl, and you're sort of playing on this like spooky tombstone chessboard where like you're moving chess pieces around. And that's pretty dope. And then that goes away. And Joe, here's the thing. This next one is the one that I want. I wish there was a full game that looked like this. And I said I want Slay the Spire to be in the UI of fucking the first part of Inscryption. But I want some game based on what I'm about to tell you, which is for a brief moment you play the Wizards version of the 3D first-person card game. And what you are doing, Joe, is you look down. You move your mouse down to look down, and you see an outstretched arm with a fucking Wizard Stone dual disc from Yu-Gi-Oh! On your arm. And, like, you play on that. And when you put stuff down, like Yu-Gi-Oh!, down below, you're on, like, a tower, down below, hologram guys appear. And you play Yu-Gi-Oh!, dude. You're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! In the game. It only lasts for about a fucking minute. And also, the Wizards game sucks so much ass. It's not fun. So, like, obviously, it would be stupid to, like, make actual gameplay of that. But just, like, seeing when you draw a card and, like, the little deck comes out of the fucking slot and shoots you a card like Yu-Gi-Oh! And you put it on your dual disc. Dude! It's... I couldn't believe it. I was blown away. I was like, this is the best game of all time.
So why is it only a minute long?
Because the fucking Wizards game sucks. The Wizard, you have to put down mana. You have to put down mocks, they call them. And it's boring. It's not as good.
The moxes are sigils that aren't fun. They are sigils that are just a price tag.
Yeah, you have to play a fucking card that just has a fucking shape on it so that another good card that you want to play has, like, by the way, you need a shape on the field for this to be active. And you're like, oh, eat shit. Fuck you. But yeah, it's a great game. It's all about cards. About why do you like cards? What do you get out of card games? And it is, you got to go into it being like, this is a story game. It's meant to be an experience and a story that I go through, and not just a card game that I play endlessly, because otherwise you'll have Joe's experience and be like, where's the card game? Well, actually, it's here now. They fixed it.
The other thing is the first guy really likes the showmanship aspect. He wants you to feel immersed. Every boss encounter is him sitting across from the table from you and putting on, like, a different mask.
Yeah, and he, like, pretends to be them.
Yeah, like, you do a fisherman boss, and he puts on his angler mask, and there's hooks now, and he's, like, he just commits to the bit, okay?
Mm-hmm. It's really good. Fuck, it's so good. What a good game. If you haven't played Inscryption yet, I really think you should. It's not long. Like I said, it's only like 10 hours of play to get through. And if you are really interested in playing the fucking first part again, you can. I wonder, I haven't played the sort of endless, roguelike mode.
I wonder if it got balanced at all.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Because, like, I don't know.
Because you're going to do Mantis God.
I was slam dunking the fucking the moon every round by the time I figured out how to solve the puzzles and go on to the next part. Because like killing the moon doesn't necessarily mean you're on to the next part. You have to kill the moon and also have achieved some other thing.
Yeah.
Wink, wink. What is it? I don't know. I actually really don't know because I forgot.
I think it's related to having the eye.
Yeah. Fuck.
And initially, when the game came out, what is this, like 6 months ago at this point?
Yeah.
People were correctly like not wanting to spoil like the fact that it's 4 games in one. Obviously, we get the jump here. We're clear that like these are the big reveals. We let you know. The game is absolutely 100% still interesting, even if you know what's going to happen, because the actual interesting thing is to see how all this shit hangs together.
Yes. And also just like, even though, part of the experience is intentionally like, this is not as engaging a card game experience as the first part was. If you like think game design is cool, and if you are like really interested in card games, like it's just fun to see all the variety of what can be done with cards, even if some of the things that can be done with cards aren't so fun exactly. And like, even though I say like, oh, two of the scribes suck, it's hard to play through it and not see that like all of these viewpoints on what card games should and could be have things in them that are worthwhile. And I think that's just cool. It's just like a little game design course in your spooky Halloween game.
Yeah. There's just fucking cards everywhere.
Cards kick ass. Cards rule. I mean, like, that's the like I had to like look up the Discord and read what everyone had figured out about the ARG. But like a big part of the fucking like deep lore is that like the evil data that this game is hiding is like card game based. It's called like the Karnaffel Code, and Karnaffel is the name of like one of the oldest known card games. And the way that Hitler had it is he had on his body in the bunker, he had like a deck of cards shuffled in a certain order that was evil.
The Hitler order?
Yeah, Hitler order. And it's just like, it's all cards. The whole world's cards. I love it.
Next time, we can talk about games I played. And games you haven't played. That's fine. I literally, before we recorded this, I got acupuncture, and I was thinking about Inscryption. And I just, like, all of the things that we have said, I kind of knew about it. Like, it's a game about cards. It's a narrative-based game. But even laying on the table with needles in me, I was like, man, it's so fun to put other glyphs on Mantis God. Like, that was my takeaway. That little opportunity to get dopamine from moving glyphs around, that's what card games are to me.
Yeah. The big bag of kibble. The big bag of kibble on the ground. Your dog brain is going to want the big bag of kibble, no matter what.
And I haven't gotten to the robot part, but based on what you're telling me, the robot is like the guy who only cares about the meta, the min-max bullshit. And that's important because, like, you have to know the worst version of the cards. And that's, to me, what that is. And it's like, I love card games, but, like, I also have to not be the robot.
Yeah.
I have to love all the other parts of design because when you're just the robot, that shit sucks.
Dude, when you're just the forest man, your game does not have as much depth and staying power. When you are just the robot, you are a soulless husk who is just looking at the numbers. You must meld the two and become
you have to be the
perfect
Game Boy
gamer.
Color game.
Yeah. Except the Game Boy Color game has this, it takes away your side deck, dude. Oh my god. In the robot version and in the Forest Man version, you have a deck of all your cards, and then you have a deck of just of your fodder cards that are just like, cost nothing, that you can sacrifice easy. And you can, anytime you can draw from your normal deck or your side deck. So anytime you need fodder cards, you can get them. In the fucking Game Boy Color version, they remove the side deck. You have to put your fodder cards in the main deck. You can get fucking land screwed so easily by just drawing a fucking hand of late game cards first turn and getting owned.
The fact that there is a fodder deck made me not miss Magic the Gathering, but it made me wish that all the hours I played in my youth playing Magic the Gathering is that, like, there was just a deck that was just lands that I could go to when I needed, because I played a lot of Magic the Gathering. I've had fun with it, but all I remember, all what has stuck with me, is getting land fucked.
Man, I think the thing we gotta leave you with, folks, is that video games kick ass. Except that when they don't, and they're bad, which is like all the time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go play Elden Ring.
Honestly, I've been playing Vampire Survivor. There's a lot of good numbers in that game.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, we'll see you next time, folks. This has been Anime Sickos. I've been Tom, Anime Sicko.
I've been Joe, an Anime Sicko.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Anime Sickos. I've been Tom, a sicko. You can follow me on Twitter at TomHarrison19. Joe is also a sicko. You can follow him on Twitter at ShariaUncle. You can follow Anime Sickos on Twitter at Anime Sickos, or email us at animesickos@gmail.com. Please leave us a review or something. I don't know. Tell a friend. Anyway, until next time, bye.